All right, I'm gonna mute everyone. Excuse me.
Welcome to Redeemer United Church of Christ, located in Sussex, Wisconsin. I am Ann Weed, and I am the liturgist for today. Our storyteller is Jim Showalter. Please take a minute to fill out our Who's Where in the Chair, either online or in person. We appreciate you connecting with us this morning. Here at Redeemer, we are learning to love more. Our called pastor is the Reverend Julie Eklund, who is currently on sabbatical. Our consistent pastoral presence during this time is the Reverend Dr. Martha Brunel. Our welcoming music today is provided by Dan Stolper.
When the music fades, all is stripped away, and I simply come, longing just to bring something that's of worth that will touch your heart. I'll bring you more than a song, for song in itself is not what you have required. You search much deeper within, though the way things appear, you're looking into my heart. I'm coming back to the heart of worship, and it's all about you, all about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for the thing I've made it, when it's all about you, Jesus. God of endless worth, no one could express how much you deserve. Though I'm weak and poor, all I have is yours, every single breath. I'll bring you more than a song, for a song in itself is not what you have required. You search much deeper within, though the way things appear, you're looking into my heart. I'm coming back to the heart of worship, and it's all about you, all about you, Jesus. I'm sorry, Lord, for the thing I've made it, when it's all about you, all about you, Jesus. I'm coming back to the heart of worship, and it's all about you, all about you, Jesus. All about you.
Please join in our opening meditation. Draw a few deep and gentle breaths. Let your breath soften you, bringing you to an inner stillness. Remember, in stillness, we can receive and we can send forth a deeper love for the world and every one of its beings. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Continue to breathe gently, relaxing any places of tightness or tension in your body. Let this time be unhurried. Breathe with care. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Never forget, Spirit is as close to us as our breath. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. We breathe into the invitation of Henry Nouwen. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Life is a gift. Each one of us is unique, known by name, and loved by the one who fashioned us. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Breathe in love. Breathe out already. Unfortunately, there is a very loud, consistent, and powerful message coming to us from the world that leads us to believe that we must prove our belovedness. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. By how we look, by what we have, but what we can accomplish. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. We become preoccupied with making it in this life. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Breathe in love. Breathe out already. And we are very slow to grasp the liberating truth of our origins and our finality. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. We need to hear the message announced and the message emboldened over and over again. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Breathe in loved. Breathe out already. Only then do we find the courage to claim it and live from it. And now, breathe into song.
Morning has broken like the first morning. descended from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Ours is the sunlight, ours is the morning, born of the one light, Eden's soft flame. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Our prayer of illumination this morning is from Howard Thurman, a theological giant of the 20th century, sometimes referred to as the spiritual heart of the civil rights movement. All around us, worlds are dying, and new worlds are being born. All around us, life is dying and life is being born. The fruit ripens on the tree. The roots are silently at work in the darkness of the earth, against the time when there shall be new leaves, fresh blossoms, green fruit. Such is the growing edge. It is the extra breath from the exhausted lung, the one more thing to try when all else has failed. The upward reach of life when weariness closes in upon all endeavor. This is the basis of hope in moments of despair, the incentive to carry on when times are out of joint and we have lost our reason. The source of confidence when worlds crash and dreams whiten into ash. The birth of a child, life's most dramatic answer to death. This is the growing edge incarnate. Look well to the growing edge. And together we respond. We have the choice to look well to the growing edge.
Our reading today is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 9, verse 35, and chapter 10, verse 8. Jesus continued touring all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of God's reign, and curing all kinds of diseases and sicknesses. At the sight of the crowds, Jesus' heart was moved with pity because they were distressed and dejected, like a sheep without a shepherd. Jesus said to the disciples, "The harvest is bountiful, but the laborers are few. Beg the overseer of the harvest to send laborers out to bring in the crops." Jesus summoned the 12 and gave them authority to expel unclean spirits and heal sicknesses and diseases of all kinds. These are the names of the 12 apostles. The first were Simon, nicknamed Peter, that is, Rock, and his brother Andrew. Then James, Ben Zebedee, and his brother John. Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew the tax collector, James, Ben Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon the Zealot, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed Jesus. These 12 Jesus sent out after giving him the following instructions. Don't visit Gentile regions, and don't enter a Samaritan town. Go instead to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, make this proclamation: the reign of heaven has drawn near. Heal those who are sick, raise the dead, cure leprosy, expel demons. You receive freely, now freely give. These are the words of our still speaking God. Thanks be to God.
I'd like to invite our children and young people to come forward, if you would like to. I don't know that I've ever seen a watermelon dance before. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. I'm going to ask you a question this morning, and I may not even know when you give the answer what the answers are, but here goes. Tell me something that you would call your favorite television program.
A high peak.
Say it again.
A high peak.
Oh, you like pink. You know what? You're not the only one. In fact, there's a lot of Barbie pink around this summer, which is on the screen. Good answer. Okay, favorite television program, or one you really like? Sports? Oh, I know what that is. Good. Do you have one you'd like to share? Do you have anything that you like on TV you'd like to share? Okay. Well, I wanted to ask you about your favorites because I want to mention a favorite of mine that's not on TV anymore. But it was on TV for 31 seasons. That's a long time. And it was on TV when my girls were growing up. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. There was a piece after that called Daniel Tiger's something or other, was the spin-off. Did you ever see that? Yeah, okay. Well, the show before that was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And Mr. Rogers was a Presbyterian pastor, and he had a most interesting congregation. It was all of the children and the families who watched his program. Some of them were there in person. There was one thing that Mr. Rogers used to say over and over again that I try to remember to say because he's not on TV anymore. When he was growing up and something really hard happened in the world, something really difficult, his mother used to say to him, whenever there's something hard or difficult happening, look for the helpers. Listen to the stories of the helpers. The helpers might be a neighbor, it might be a firefighter or a police officer, it might be a teacher, but always pay attention to the helpers. So I'm going to be talking about helpers a little bit later, and that's the one line from TV that most addresses how important helpers can be. So thank you for being here this morning. Are you looking forward to the Dad's root beer floats and all of the food after that? I am. Okay, I can't believe in all the churches I've been in that nobody has ever thought of using Dad's root beer on Father's Day. Brilliant. Okay, you can rejoin your families. Or you can stay with me if you'd like. Either way, we're going to hear a story this morning about a helper in the Gibb Street Garden, and our helper's name today is Nora, brought to us by Anne.
I always try to get Mr. Miles out for a walk and a taste of fresh air. I don't know about his other nurses. I expect it's because I'm British. Back in England, you'd see mothers pushing infants in prams through winter gales. I expect as well it was the sight of my own father, vegetating in his chair by the fire. We mustn't stop living before our time, so I'm forever telling Mr. Miles. It was a midsummer morning and I was pushing his wheelchair up Gibb Street, a new route for us. The view, I'll admit, is less than uplifting. Half the storefront seemed to be empty. Mr. Miles must remember a very different scene. His landlady says he's lived here many years. As he lost his speech with his second stroke, he can't tell me himself. He's a mystery. Lately, his interest in the world has declined. I'd stop before a store window to let him see himself. He has the dignified head of an African chief, only to find that he'd fallen asleep. I realized that his time might be near. And then, that morning, rolling along the sidewalk, suddenly his arm came up. He wanted to stop. I obliged him at once. To our left was a lot in which a few bold pioneers had planted gardens. We remained several minutes, watching two Asian women hoeing, then continued on. Immediately, back up went his arm. I came around and looked at him. He twisted and pointed toward the garden, so I turned the wheelchair and headed back. I could see his nostrils taking in the smell of the soil. We reached the lot. His arm commanded me to enter, and over the narrow, bumpy path we went, his nose and eyes working. Some remembered scent was pulling him. He was a salmon traveling upstream through his past. That first day, we simply watched the others. We might have been strolling through a miniature city. Some plots sported brick pathways and flower borders, while others looked haphazard. One had a gate that was in fact a car door. Within beams climbed a propped-up set of bed springs, a hummingbird feeder, a barbecue grill, a gardening hat hanging from a nail. There were many such domestic touches. I was entranced. I determined that Mr. Miles should do more than simply watch, wheelchair or no. So I worked on the problem in my head. 2 days later, driving to his apartment, I stopped at the garden and unloaded a large plastic trash barrel and a shovel. I wheeled him up an hour later, used my pocket knife to cut holes in the bottom of the barrel for drainage, and built up a fine sweat shoveling in dirt. I'd brought with me a dozen seed packets. Mr. Miles chose the flowers decisively, ignoring the vegetables. Was he recalling his mother's flower garden? His history was unknowable. I pushed him as close to the barrel as I could, and 30 minutes later he'd planted hollyhocks, poppies, and snapdragons. Riding home afterward, he smelled the dirt on his fingers with satisfaction. That small circle of earth became a second home to both of us. Gardening boring? Never. It has suspense, tragedy, startling developments, a soap opera growing out of the ground. I'd forgotten that tremolo of expectation produced by a tiny forest of sprouts. What a marvelous sight it was to behold Mr. Miles' furrowed black face inspecting his smooth-skinned young, just arrived in the world he'd shortly leave. His eyes gained back some of their life. He weeded and watered with great concentration. A fact bopped up to my memory that the ancient Egyptians prescribed walking through a garden as a cure for the mad. It was a mind-altering drug we took daily. We were rather alone there, off to one side. Our most common visitors were the cats. They were attracted by the aroma of fish, the work of a child who'd copied the pilgrims of old and buried sardines with her seeds. Then our solitary status ended as a result of a downpour. When the rain came that day, the other gardeners all ran in the same direction, as if in a fire drill. We followed and found them sheltered beneath a shoe store's overhang 2 doors down, apparently their customary refuge. The small dry space forced us together. In 15 minutes, we'd met them all and soon knew the whole band of regulars. Most were old. Many grew plants from their native lands, huge Chinese melons, ginger, cilantro, a green the Jamaicans call kalalu, and many more. Pantomime was often required to get over language barriers, yet we were all subject to the same weather and pests, the same neighborhood, and the same parental emotions toward our plants. If we happened to miss 2 or 3 days, people stopped by on our return to ask about Mr. Miles' health. We, like our seeds, were now planted in the garden. I told all of this to out-of-town guests, then took them up Terminal Tower. We got off at the observation deck on the 42nd floor to find that the garden, which loomed so large to its tenders, was hopelessly hidden from view by buildings. I looked at all the tourists who'd no notion it existed, who thought they were seeing all of Cleveland, and restrained myself from pointing and shouting out, "The Gibbs Street Garden is there."
I have a couple of introductory comments I'd like to share this morning before I begin. The first one is a reminder that the gospel writer of the Gospel of Matthew was writing to a Jewish Christian audience. The gospel writer of the Gospel of Luke was writing to a Gentile Christian audience. And therefore, when we hear in the text about going only to the lost children of Israel, not going to a Gentile household, not going to a Samaritan place, we need to remember that it is not an invitation to be exclusive or choosy about where we serve and what we give. The second thing that I want to remind you about are 2 anniversaries that we're in between right now. Last Tuesday, June the 12th, would have been Anne Frank's 94th birthday. And tomorrow, June 19th, is Juneteenth, when the Emancipation Proclamation finally got to the last destination in Texas. And so today, I'm going to use a strategy similar to the one I used last week, where, imitating the gospel, I wrapped 2 stories around one another as our gospel reading had been. Today there will be 2 stories wrapped around that echo the anniversary of Anne Frank's birthday and also of Juneteenth. So here we go. We're going to start in the 1990s. And we're going to start at Woodrow Wilson High School in Long Beach, California, a high school that serves many ethnicities. And we're going to go with a student teacher. She's going to be a student teacher in English classes at this particular high school. And she is going to be gifted with the 150 English students that everybody has given up on. The kids who get the torn books, the kids who nobody expects are probably even going to get a GED, let alone do anything worthwhile with their lives. Give them to the student teacher. The student teacher, Erin Grunwell, is the daughter of a civil rights attorney, and so this is kind of right up her alley. It's a little rough at first. Sometimes what you dream about in theory and what happens when your feet are on the ground is a little bit different. Finally, one day she asked her students, and she had a classroom of Asian kids, African American kids, and Hispanic kids. How many of you have ever been shot? Every hand went up. Shot or stabbed. Then what happened next was every shirt went up, because everybody had to display the evidence that that was a part of their life. All of them were in gangs, both for their own safety, but also with a great deal of danger. She was able to begin to build from that commonality. She was able to let that commonality help them form as a bunch of classes. The next thing she did, since she was having to pay her tuition bills while she was a student teacher earning no money, so she had 2 part-time jobs. She worked in the lingerie department at Neiman Marcus, and she worked at Barnes & Noble. And she used some of her Barnes & Noble employee discounts to buy books for her students. And she had them read Anne Frank's diary, hoping that hearing the story of someone about their age who was trapped, closed in by circumstances bigger than herself, that might begin to tap something inside of them and begin to help them to understand that they too could express their stories. And she struck a deal with them. She bought them all notebooks, and she said, if you write in your notebooks during the week and leave them in this particular place, I will read them. I will return them to you. What's in your notebook, you will know and I will know, but that's all the knowing that will happen. In the process of reading Anne Frank's diary, they learned about the 4 helpers, all employees of Otto Frank at his pectin business, that wonderful stuff that makes berries or whatever else you make your jam out of, grapes, to gel. That 4 of the front office people were the folks who kept the 8 of them who were in hiding, 2 families and a spare dentist, kept them alive for 25 months. Everybody had different food responsibilities. Somebody brought library books. Someone smuggled in a contraband radio so that they could listen to the Queen on BBC and feel some sense of what was happening outside those 4 walls. One of the helpers, Miep Gies, was still alive in the 90s. She was in her mid-80s. And so Aaron Grunwell's students wrote to her and asked her if she would come to visit them. If they raised the money to get her there, if she would come to visit them. Well, Miep Gies was still a helper, and she had not been able to save Anne, although she had saved Anne's diary. On August the 4th, 1944, when the 8 of them were discovered, there was a normal process that happened when people were deported or found in hiding or just simply killed in the street, and that was that a truck came and picked up all the belongings. So those then became vacant spaces. Miep and another one of the helpers knew that was going to happen, so they went up to the rooms to see if anything of value had been overlooked. And everything was turned upside down, but on the floor was Anne's journal and the rest of her writing. And so Miep gathered it up to save it for when Anne came back. She didn't read it because it was Anne's property, and she put it in the back of a file drawer down in the office. And she would later say, thank God I didn't read it, because if I did, I would have destroyed it because of the people who were named in the diary. So these students, 50 years later, in Long Beach, California, ask Miep if she will come. And she does come. And meanwhile, their teacher had found, the community of Holocaust survivors in Los Angeles, and they all had a dinner together, and they'd been to the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles and learned more about the Holocaust and other such experiences. And one of the young men stood up and said to Miep one day, I've never had a hero. you are my hero. And she said, I'm not a hero. Any housewife, secretary, or teenager can do the right thing. And then she looked at them and she said, I've read your letters and I've talked to your teachers. You are my heroes. You who are committing to starting your life again in a way that may bring life through you, you are my heroes. Miep, at 32 years old, was asked by Otto Frank, who had desperately tried to get his family out of Europe and finally decided their only route was to go in hiding, and he asked Miep if she would help them. And she said yes without batting an eye. Meanwhile, her husband Jan, who was a social worker, was ferreting people away, adults, babies, all over Amsterdam and out into the countryside. And so for 25 months, they kept them hidden and safe and fed and well-read. And after the war, when only Otto Frank came back, one of 8, and when it became clear several months later that Anne and her sister Margot had died in Bergen-Belsen, Miep went to the file drawer, scooped up all the papers, and gave them to Otto and said, these are yours. And Otto read them, and he said to Miep, have you read it? And she said, no. And he read them and made the decision to publish Anne's diary. A whole series of small actions taken, small helping moments. If those papers had been taken when all the furniture was taken, or if Miep had thrown them out, or if she had read them, we wouldn't have the story that later would inspire a group of very different kids, but under parallel circumstances, to do something else with their lives. All 150 of those kids graduated from high school, every single one of them. And many of them went on to college. Meanwhile, their stories had been published, and some of them used the money from the publication to fund their college and their teachers and their lawyers and their community organizers and all kinds of other things. They started a foundation called Freedom Writers, and yes, it's a takeoff on Freedom Writers, which is still going, which is still impacting lives of young people in all kinds of challenging circumstances. All these helpers. And it began with a simple but dangerous question in 1942. Will you help us? If we regard ourselves as disciples, as those who are called to help, those who are called to be a healing presence, those who are called to stand in the narrow, difficult places where people suffer. Those who are aware when something is right on our doorstep, inviting us to get engaged, and we do. Or in Howard Thurman's language, if we see the growing edge, every time it's in front of us or beside us or among us, as an opportunity to help for life, to be a part of everything and everyone and every time. Those who have helped before, those who are helped long after we're gone, and all of us in that simple practice right now. These 2 anniversaries that were lodged between today invite us to be those who help, those who grow, those who serve, those who aren't afraid of the world that Thurman describes in the prayer we heard this morning, in the rhythm of living and dying, those who are not afraid of that, but who are willing to stand there, and maybe we're feeding somebody. Maybe we're rounding up furniture, finding apartments, getting books to young children who have no books in their homes, working in anti-violence programs, you name it, anywhere. Whatever growing edge may be there for us to consider, for us to listen to. Is this a growing edge for us? Is this a place where we might help in the simplest of ways, never knowing the impact, the ripples, the growth over time? So in both of these anniversaries and in the sending out of the disciples by Jesus, as told by the gospel writer of Matthew, I hear that invitation to help on a variety of growing edges. We may make a difference we'll never know about. We don't have to. The point is to be willing to grow, to serve. You may remember or you may not remember when I was first here, I told you that the only definition of sin that's ever really made sense to me goes back to the 4th century from Gregory of Nyssa, that sin is the refusal to grow. It's the refusal to become more. It's the refusal to be stretched out, opened up, softened to the struggle and the joy around us. Because there we'll find the growing edge. And some of those edges are remarkable beyond description. Amen. Our song of reflection is Ubi Caritas. We will sing it in English as many times as Dan deems is necessary. And it too is a prayer of service and helping.
Live in charity and steadfast love. Live in charity. God will dwell with you. Live in charity and steadfast love. Live in charity. God will dwell with you. Live in charity and steadfast charity and steadfast love. Live in charity. God will dwell with you.
As we enter into prayer, and also in memory of Otto Frank, who as a father tried so hard to protect his family, and later as a father let his daughter's voice protect and help so many others. Let us recall the father folks in our life, whether it was a father, an uncle, an older sibling, a cousin, a neighbor, a teacher, somebody you knew, perhaps a public figure from whom you learned a lot. Sometimes characters in books do a whole lot of parenting, as does the beautiful world around us. So in whatever ways you have been parented by a good father, and I just stepped in front of the reading of the concerns, which is the rest of what you should keep in mind as we pray. So I'm going to take a little breather here.
I thought you were just ad-libbing and I was going with it, so yeah. Okay, the prayer person of the week is Carol Ross. Contact information is found in your bulletin or will be in this week's Redeemer Reminders. And these are the prayer requests. Prayers for the Presentha family and friends for the loss of Vicky Presentha, and that's from the first loss. From the Eckert family is requesting prayers for all dads, uncles, grandparents, memories of our dads, Gregory Porchetta and Wes Eckert. And she said, blessed is the father who shares his heart, lives his faith, gives his time, and loves his family, from Proverbs 20, verse 7. Another prayer request, giving thanks for the life of George Everett, whose birthday was last week. Ron and Tony Knutson is requesting prayers for Brian. Brian lost his wife yesterday. And those are our prayer requests.
Humbling experiences are good for all of us. Holding everything you've heard and all that you carry in your own heart this day, let us pause for prayer, first in silence, and then as we share the prayer of our faith family. Let us pray. And I invite you to join with me now. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
And now we have our invitation to generosity. Gifted with belovedness, it is from there we can live and share in fullness and in joy. Join one another in such giving. The gold can is Mr. Bob's Under the Bridge. Mr. Bob's Under the Bridge fosters a community of compassion and friendship by providing basic necessities such as clothing and hygiene products to the homeless, those who need support, and the surrounding Milwaukee community. Mr. Bob's prides itself on being a mobile organization. Every Saturday morning, they have an outreach. Items such as clothing, hygiene kits, and snacks are distributed at each location. We have resurrected passing the offering plate and the gold can. You can also give online at our website or mail into the church. Many thanks for your generosity.
Join me now in our prayer of dedication and thanksgiving. We continue to grow as those who give. Our gifts continue to grow with the lives they touch and the life they encourage. And gifts are always coming back our way. In the midst of that simple miracle, we give thanks. Our departing song today, Send Me Lord, is from South Africa. I remember the first time I ever heard this. It was in 1989. I was serving a church in Massachusetts, and my seminary classmate, who was also a very talented church musician, came running at me waving this cassette tape. It was a bootlegged copy of music from South Africa. Everything that was coming in the country from South Africa then was bootlegged. And he said, "Martha, you have to hear this." And a few years later, it was published above boards in the country, and everybody could get it. But I had that copy in my car forever. And so we're going to sing this today in a wonderful fashion in which Dan will describe how he's going to lead us. And this is a song of freedom in our faith.
So this is a very short little song. So we're going to basically do it twice. I'll do it the piano here like in a freestyle, and then we're going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to move over to the drum, and we're going to do it a little more like you'd hear it in South Africa. with just vocals and percussion. Send me, Lord, send me, Jesus, send me, Jesus, send me, Jesus, send me, Lord, lead me, Lord, lead me, Jesus, lead me, Jesus, lead me, Jesus, lead me, fill me, Lord, fill me, Jesus, fill me, Jesus, fill me, Jesus, fill me, send me, Lord, send me, Jesus, send me, Jesus, send me, Jesus, send me, Lord. Send me, Lord, send me, Jesus, send me, Jesus, send me, Jesus, send me, lead me, Lord, lead me, Jesus, lead me, Jesus, lead me, Jesus, lead me, fill me, Lord, fill me, Jesus, fill me, Jesus, fill me, Jesus, fill me, send me, Lord, send me, Jesus, send me, Jesus, send me, Jesus, send once more, send me, Lord, fill me, Jesus, send me, Jesus, send me, Jesus, send me, Lord, send me, Jesus, send me, Lord, send me, Jesus, send me, Lord.
Our words of blessing this morning are taken from Anne Frank's diary, written on July the 15th, 1944. The family would be discovered on August the 4th that same year. I still believe, in spite of everything, that people are truly good at heart. Those are words spoken from an ever-present growing edge. Let's be there. Amen.
Here are the opportunities for you to serve this week. Faith in action. We'd like to thank everyone who made this morning possible. For worship, Dan and Brian, thank you. Zoom moderator Megan Everett, usher Rick Bulbrick, and greeter Ann Matthews. As of June 12th, our water is bacteria-free. Yay! After multiple clean tests, the DNR has lifted all restrictions and our water is safe for consumption. Testing will continue to assure an ongoing safe supply from our well. We have a critical need for mowing volunteers. Kim also can train you if needed, but right now we have multiple weeks in a row where we have no one signed up for mowing the grass, so please consider doing this. Pastor Martha will be leading us in one more retreat this coming Saturday, June 24th. Be sure to sign up. Prairie Fest is coming on July 29th, and it does take a village to create this amazing event. So here is the Prairie Fest, one of the members of the committee, and he's going to highlight one of the different ways you can volunteer.
Good morning. Prairie Fest committee met this past week, and we decided that every Sunday we would have a different representative from the team highlight something special about Prairie Fest. And my idea was that we would find out how many books you have read as a congregation about nature and the environment and the world, And so I brought some of the books that I've collected over the years, and I'll just go through them very quickly. One of my favorite naturalists, Our Living Ancestors, The History of Ecology of the Old Growth Forests in Wisconsin and Where to Find Them, has maps as to where those forests are. That's John Bates. A book that my son-in-law, Eric, gave me for a birthday, Dan Flores' American Serengeti, the prairie. Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Beautiful book. Read that one. Here's a book that I pulled out of my box in the basement, and I kept it for a reason. It's William Bryant Logan's book, Dirt, The Ecstatic Skin of the Earth. And on the front it says, it's a gleeful, poetic book like the best of natural histories. Dirt is a kind of prayer. Fun read there. And what I've been reading recently is a book called Unbowed, a memoir of Wangari Maathai, and she was the first African woman and the first environmentalist to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Overcame many obstacles. And if you're not up to reading that much of the book about Wangari and what she did, she founded the Green Belt movement. And there's a little book for children that they've now collected about her. And it's Dr. Wangari Plants a Forest in Kenya. And do you mind if I read you just a little bit about the Green Belt movement? I mean, I know the brats and hamburgers have been made and the root beer floats are out there. So just really quick, the Green Belt movement is an environmental organization founded by Professor Wangari Maathai in 1977 to empower communities, particularly women, to save the environment and improve livelihoods. In response to the needs of rural Kenyan women, Greenbelt movement encourages them to work together to improve the surrounding land and local economies by growing seedlings and planting trees in order to bind the soil, store rainwater, and provide food and firewood. They receive a very small monetary token for their work. So this is a great book for kids and for girls and boys. Dr. Wangari Maathai Plants a Forest. And I know that Casey Steffen had written a project for school about Kenya. He saw something and it inspired him. And so Casey, if you're listening to this Zoom this morning, pick up this book about Kenya and be inspired by her as an environmentalist. 9 weeks now to Prairie Fest, July 29th. Don't forget, mark your calendars. July 29th, it's a Saturday. Come back. We'll also have brats and hamburgers. So hope to see you then.
Thank you, Steve. Just a few more things. There are 3 more spiritual practice sessions with Pastor Martha on Wednesday evenings through July 5th. If you haven't attended one, check it out. It's really enjoyable and so rich. There's such rich discussions. I just can't speak more highly of it. Redeemer will be hosting a Narcan training session on July 10th at 6:30 p.m. Please sign up. Are you looking for a sense of community outside of Sunday mornings? Do you desire to experience hospitality and a chance to encourage one another? Then head over to Loca Latte on Fridays from 11 to 1. We'd love to see you there. Just a reminder, happy Father's Day, and join us right after this service for fellowship, Dad's root beer floats, and our brat and hamburger sale. Now go forth, live out your faith in the world this week and beyond. Amen.